welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Monique, aka Worldly Roxy, and today we are going to be talking about my amazing time at Victoria Falls, aka Mosi Altunya. If you want to hear all about my adventures, how much fun I had, where I stayed, stay tuned and I'm going to get right into the details. So I went to Victoria Falls just about a month ago. I was there from July 4th until July 8th. And I got to see Victoria Falls from the Zambia side, from the Zimbabwe side, and from up in the air because I did a helicopter ride. So first, let's talk about a few things before we get into all the fun that I had. Because I went in July, it was their winter. Victoria Falls winter goes from late June through late September. This is probably the best time to visit Victoria Falls because the tide of the water is really high and you get to really see her in her glory. So being as though it was winter, how to dress is extremely important. Now, before I went, I did do a video, which you guys will see on my page, where I only packed carry-on items. So I had a small suitcase, I had a neck pillow that I could fill with clothes, and I had a backpack. You guys can check that video out to see how I packed all of that. But I was in Africa for a total of 2 weeks. So the first leg of my trip was in Victoria Falls. The second leg was in Zanzibar, which will be a different video. So what did I pack to go to Victoria Falls? Being as though it's winter, the weather in the morning and at night gets to be about 50 degrees. It's summertime where I'm at now in Chicago, so that was very challenging because I'm like, I don't understand what their winter will be like, but I know it won't be anything like my winter, which is harsh snow, brittle, cold temperatures, and it was nothing like that. So at the lowest temperatures that I experienced while being there, it was about 50 degrees. So it did get really cold at night, in addition to in the morning. So I made sure to have like my bomber jacket, which you guys will see here in a picture that I'll post. And that was pretty much what I wore until about high noon, when it would reach 60 to 70 degrees, and then I could take that off. And then throughout the middle of the day, it really wasn't cold. But I was doing a lot of excursions and tours from the morning all the way into the late evening. I would have to pack layering options just so that I could be comfortable in the morning as well as the afternoon. So I packed maxi skirts and dresses that went all the way down past my ankles, so that if I did want to wear a dress or a skirt, because I knew it would be warmer in the afternoon, I would be comfortable and still warm in the morning when it was cold. I also brought a cardigan as well to have like as another option in case I didn't want to wear my bomber jacket. But the bomber jacket was a hit. It went with literally everything. It's cropped, it's cute. It was fitting in with the vibes, and it's African print. It was giving the vibes. So if you're going to be traveling to Mosi Altunya, aka Victoria Falls, in the wintertime between late June and late September, make sure to pack layering options because you will need them. Another thing that you're going to need traveling to Victoria Falls is a rain jacket or a poncho. You do not have to bring that with you. There are places that you can rent rain jackets from right outside of the entrances before you're going to go into Victoria Falls, so you do not have to bring them. The hotel that I stayed in actually provided them as well. It was like a really thin plastic. It did do the trick though. I used it on the first day. The second day when I visited Victoria Falls from the Zimbabwe side, I actually rented one. It was thicker. It had a lot more coverage. But some hotels, knowing that you're going to be visiting Victoria Falls, especially around this specific time, you are going to get wet, okay? You will be walking through what is like a rainforest. So you will need to make sure that you accommodate your hair, make sure that you are thinking about the clothes that you're wearing. And that brings me back to, in terms of what you wear, make sure that you bring fabrics like cotton. Try to stay away from polyester fabrics because they do not dry quickly. But if you bring cotton fabric and you get wet, which is you're going to, okay, you'll dry off fast. The very first day that I went to Victoria Falls, on the Zambia side, I had on a really long maxi dress, and it's a full cotton dress. So I did get really wet, but by the time we were out of the rainforest and the sun started to come out, my dress did get dry and I was fine. So I chose the right types of fabrics, and I want to extend that very same tip to you, if you're going to be traveling to Victoria Falls, just make sure that you're packing light clothing like linen, cottons, things of that nature that you're going to be warm in, but they will dry quickly. So where did I stay? I flew into the Victoria Falls airport in Zimbabwe, but I was actually staying in Zambia. Now, I don't know why I did it this way. I literally could have just flown into Livingstone Airport in Zambia and then stayed in Zambia, but for whatever reason, because I don't have any logic to this, guys, I flew into the Victoria Falls Airport in Zimbabwe, and then I had to drive through the border to get to Zambia to my hotel, which was the Royal Livingstone. Also, another thing, if you're going to be visiting both Zambia and Zimbabwe, you want to get what is called a Kaza visa, Kaza. That will allow you entry into Zimbabwe, Zambia, and Botswana because they all share a border. So keep that in mind as well. So I stayed at the Royal Livingstone. Now, if you don't know what the Royal Livingstone is, it is one of the more luxurious hotels that sits inside of the Victoria Falls National Park. So one of their biggest things that they advertise is that you have the opportunity to have close encounters with zebras, with giraffes, with antelopes, with monkeys, all kinds of animals, because they sit inside of the national park, and they are actually right off of the Zambezi River, which you can see from the restaurant as well as the pool. It's like right there. I stayed there for 4 nights. That is where I stayed the entire time I was in the Victoria Falls area. I did not swap hotels at all, but I wish I would have. While the Royal Livingstone is a really nice hotel, I feel like for myself and what I was doing while I was in the area, I did not need to stay in such an expensive, luxurious place because I spent very little time in the hotel. And normally I understand that about myself. Like, I'm an explorer. I am a traveler. I do not sit in the hotels or resorts and just kick my feet up most of the time. I'm out exploring the country. I want to see what's what, who's who. I want to see what's going on. So if you're like me and you're not going to be spending much time in your hotel during your stay, do not spend all of that money to stay at a place like the Royal Livingstone if you are not going to be spending a significant amount of your time inside of that hotel appreciating all the money that you've spent. So I spent a total of about $2,400 for those 4 nights, and the only thing that was included in that was breakfast. Now, the breakfast was actually really good, I will say that. It's buffet style. There's a lot of variety. There's pancakes, there's French toast, there is a station where you can make eggs however you want to, or omelets however you want to. They have fresh juices. They have a plethora of breads and sweets that you can have in the morning with your coffee or your tea. They have a cereal bar. They have a quiche station. They have something for everyone, which I absolutely love. Fresh fruits, all of that. And they also offer you coffee or tea when you're seated at your table. Other than that, the lunch and the dinner, you have to pay for on your own. Those are not included. And of course, they do have packages that include all the meals, but I did not choose that because it was a lot more money. And I'm glad that I didn't, because I had dinner at this hotel only one time. The one time that I did have dinner, the food was not to my personal liking. I feel like it was overpriced and it just was really not good to me personally. So I did not have dinner anymore at the hotel. So that was also something that I didn't really enjoy, like the fact that it was so expensive and then the food was not really to my personal liking. Also, although it's highly advertised that you're gonna have encounters with giraffes and zebra and things of that nature, we cannot control nature. So I did not see that many of those animals there. I did see quite a few antelopes like impala. I also saw a lot of monkeys on the property as well. So it's a hit or miss. So that's why I'm saying, if you are not like gonna be spending all your time in the hotel, that you're gonna be scouting the animals and going out looking for them, it's best if you stay somewhere that's a lot more affordable. If you're looking for more of a affordable priced lodging option, do not stay here. What I will say about the Royal Livingstone, the staff is incredible. They made my stay everything. I have never had a butler before. I had a butler, his name was Kennedy, and because I'd never had a butler before, I didn't really understand what he could do for me. He ran it down. All of the other people that I ran into on the property were always smiling, always had a smile on their face. They were very welcoming. I even got to do some dancing and singing with the welcome team at the front when you first come in and as you're exiting. So the staff is absolutely incredible at this hotel, and I would give them a 10 out of 10, but my stay in general at the Royal Livingstone, I would give a 5 out of 10, and I would not stay there again. So now let's talk about all the fun I had. For the duration of this video, we are going to be referring to Victoria Falls as the Mosi Altunya, since that is her traditional name. The name Victoria Falls was actually given to this beautiful wonder of the world by a man named David Livingstone, who is a European person who came over, and he was allegedly one of the first people to discover and I guess make Victoria Falls a big known thing to Europeans or whoever, wherever he went. Now, I'm not really prone to talking about what white people have discovered, because that's just not a thing that we are going to get into right now. However, Mosi Altunya was there before he was there, obviously, and I want to honor her in all of her glory, and making sure that I call out that because she was there before he discovered her, I want to honor her and call her the Mosi Altunya, because it's only right. So the Mosi Altunya I saw from the Zambia side first. My very first full day in Zambia, I went in the morning. It was about 9 a.m. and I went to the Devil's Pool, you guys. I know you have seen it all over Instagram, all over TikTok, all over wherever you can see things regarding what people are doing in other countries. And I had to be a part of this crazy, crazy activity. So I wanted to see it from all angles. I wanted to see this large waterfall from all angles. So picture this. Remember, you guys, I told you earlier in the video that it's their winter time. So in the morning, it's about 50 degrees, okay? So picture this. It's 50 degrees Fahrenheit. I had on a bikini. I go and I'm in a waterfall. Super early in the morning. It's cold. The water is cold. It's dangerous. It was a time, y'all. So of course there will be pictures and videos inserted here so that you guys can see the activity itself. But actually we couldn't do the Devil's Pool because the tide was so high that it was completely unsafe. So the team of people took us to what they call the Angel's Pool, which is a little less dangerous, and the tide is not as high on this side. So we were able to safely still be able to hang over the cliff and get those infamous photos that everyone wants to get if you're going to the Devil's Pool. And just to talk a little bit about that process, the Devil's Pool is actually not on like a main land. So you go to a point where you're then taking on like a speedboat to a smaller island, which they call the Livingstone Island. And then that is where they show you a certain perspective of the waterfall. And then of course that's what we saw, the Devil's Pool. They called it out and they let us know, hey, that's unsafe, we're not going to be doing that. We're going to go on this side where the tide is lower and it's safer for you guys. There was probably a group of about 8 of us that did this at one time, and they have a really, really tight system. It's 3 guys at one time. One guy, he's going to collect all of the phones or whatever you're going to be using to take your photographs and your pictures. Your photographs and your videos. He's going to do that for you. Then there is a gentleman who is holding your ankles to make sure that you do not fall over. And then there's a third man who is there to just help with reining all the other people in that are waiting to, have their experience. So it is a very well thought out thing, but it was insane, you guys. It is notably to this day the craziest water sport that I've done so far. So that was the first activity that I did in the morning in Zambia. So after the Devil's Pool, we get back, we take the speedboat back to the mainland in Zambia, and then I meet back up with my tour guide whose name is Brian, and then we continue our tour. After the Devil's Pool, we went ahead and went to the Zambia side of the Mosi Altunya. So because I was staying at the Royal Livingstone, another perk of staying at the Royal Livingstone is that you get free access to the falls. So I did not have to pay the $20 entrance fee to go into the falls through the regulatory entrance. Now, on the property of the Royal Livingstone, there is a path where you can literally walk over to the falls yourself and do like your own tour, walking through the falls. But I wanted a guided tour because I did not know what I was looking at, where to go, nothing. So I got myself a guide and we did it that way. So I had free entry into the falls, into Mosi Altunia, because of where I was staying. And then me and Brian started our tour. Now, it's still cold at this time. Now, at this point, it's maybe 10:30 a.m., so it's still 55 degrees or so. I just put back on all my clothes from having on a bikini at 9 a.m., and then now we're going to walk back through, and then we're going to get wet. You're not getting wet the entire time you're in there. There's a certain point in time that Brian let me know, okay, now it's time to put on your raincoat because you're going to get wet. It's time. So as we're walking through, there's also a bridge that you have to cross to get to, like, they have it as points. So I believe there's like 15 points that you have to see. And then point 1, point 2, point 3. So he knows at a certain point you're going to start to get wet. So he instructed me to put on my poncho and he put on his own. And then there's a bridge that you walk over, and it was so rainy. It was coming down like crazy because you have to understand the miles per hour of this wind and water that's happening around you, because we're in the height of like her glory right now. Like I said, in the wintertime is the best time to go. And it was crazy, you guys. I couldn't even record because it was so much happening. So I'm sorry I can't show you guys that part, but I do have some clips that I'm going to show you guys of where I was walking through, and it was like a torrential downpour of water. It was incredible. I was just soaking up everything. I did not mind getting wet. I was just there to immerse myself into the experience. I loved every minute. It is incredible to see it up close. And then it's even more amazing to see it from the Zimbabwe side, which we'll get to in a second. But after we went to see Mosi Altunia from the Zambia side, I went and I had the privilege of visiting a village. So I was able to go into this village and they showed me around. They told me about their way of life, how they build their homes, how they plant their crops, how they grow their crops, who cooks the food, how they cook the food. It was incredible, and I'm just so grateful that they welcomed me into their village to show me around. And I was able to just, at the end of it, they do have a market that you can go to support the people of the village. They are amazing craftsmen and women. They make jewelry, they make all types of wood carvings, just everything you can think of, they have there. So I did try to support as much as I could. And then that concluded my day in Zambia. And I had a great time being able to immerse myself in the culture of Zambia. My second day in Victoria Falls is when I drove over to Zimbabwe. So driving over to Zimbabwe, I was handed off to another guide for the day because Brian, who was my guide on the Zambia side, he only stayed on the Zambia side. So I was met by someone else on the Zimbabwe side, and then my tour began that way. So the very first thing that I did while I was visiting the Zimbabwe side, I went ahead and toured Mosi Altunia from that side first in the morning. So here we go again. I was like, okay. So this time, that's when I decided to rent a raincoat instead of using that poncho because I knew that I would have more coverage doing that. So I rented the raincoat, and then you guys got to know this. Now, because this is on the Zimbabwe side, I was not protected in terms of not paying the fee to go inside of Mosi Altunia. That was $50, y'all. So you got to know that. The entry fee on the Zimbabwe side is $50 US for foreigners. Was not expecting that. But it's fine. I paid the $50. We went inside. Now, I guess the reason that it's a little bit more on the Zimbabwe side is because the views from the Zimbabwe side is where you see the main part of the falls. It is incredible. I ain't gonna lie now. But I did have a moment where I was like, do I need to see it from this side? Because $50 is crazy. But I pushed through. I went ahead inside, and to see the main falls and learn about all of the different things about the Mosi Altunia was amazing. They also had this super large statue of David Livingstone, the man who we talked about a little bit earlier. And again, like that, just talking about colonization and discovery from white people in Africa really just is really cringy to me as a a black person in the diaspora and knowing what colonization and slavery and all these other things have done to repress and to just really change the history of who Africans are and how African countries exist. But they said that David Livingstone was not a bad person, that he did not come there to enslave them or to indoctrinate them with bad things. However, there were things about him that he wanted to come there and spread the word of Christianity. And they don't say that he was like a bad person, but that still is kind of like, you still came over here saying that you wanted to change the lives of savages and give them an understanding of a more civilized life. Like, excuse me? How are people savages? Because they live differently from you. But anyway, we're gonna again move forward. So this time, my guide, he took me through the falls. We were there for about an hour. Same deal. We went through the falls from this side, and the views were better because it is the main side of the falls. So after I was done seeing the falls from the Zimbabwe side, it was time to get into some more of my activities for the day in Zimbabwe. So I stayed in Zimbabwe this entire day. After I left there, I went to go and do a helicopter ride to see the falls from the sky. Now this, I was kind of like, I don't think this is necessary, but at the same time, I have heard so many wonderful things about seeing the falls from the helicopter. I have never been in a helicopter ride before this experience. It was great. So I didn't book all of this stuff by myself, by the way. I contracted a company, this is their name, and they literally put together everything for me. I did not do anything but get inside of a car, get out of a car, go where I was supposed to go, meet who I was supposed to meet. They handled every part. They picked me up from the airport and got me back to the airport. It was seamless, y'all. So if you're looking to go to Victoria Falls and you're looking for a viable company to work with, these are your people, okay? They took great care of me. I was met by a company, MJ Air is the name of the company that I did the helicopter ride with. So I get into that car, they take me to where the helicopter will be leaving from for the tour. I was with a couple. They were in the back, I was in the front, as you can see here in this little clip that I'm gonna insert for you guys. And they do have a professional photographer there to take pictures of you throughout the whole process, and pictures and videos. And then they will obviously sell you a package at the end. I did not purchase that package, but that is an option if you know, like the couple. Their pictures were so stinking cute because it was just moments that like they would not have captured if it weren't for that professional photographer. So the option was there. After the helicopter ride was over, I was then taken to have lunch, and then I went to the Lookout Cafe, which is a really nice scenic restaurant, and I had like some peri-peri chicken. The food was actually really good. I really enjoyed the chicken, and the rice was just perfectly seasoned. Loved it. And then after that, it was time to go meet some animals. If you guys don't know, I'm obsessed with animal interactions. I try to do them wherever I can, safely obviously. And I was able to go to have an elephant interaction. Her name was Mickey Mouse. She was the cutest thing ever. She's 23 years old, and I was able to do a safari on Mickey Mouse's back, and we rode around for about 45 minutes. She was so cute. The guy that was sitting in front of me, he was like giving me some facts about her, about elephants in general, and I just thought it was so interesting how a lot of their elephants, they're at this sanctuary because they were going to be slaughtered due to the overpopulation of elephants in the area. I was able to learn about her trunk. I was able to learn about her ears. I was able to learn about her eyelashes, just the really small details about elephants that I didn't know before. So I really enjoyed that. And then after the elephant interaction, I did another lion walk. For those of you guys that don't know, this was my third lion walk, you guys, in the third country that I've done it in. I've done a lion walk in South Africa. My second lion walk was in Senegal just last year. These were full-grown brown lions, and now this is my third lion walk, and I will never miss an opportunity to be that close to lions. I mean, come on. So I was able to, and this one was different because they let me hold the lion's tail. I've never been able to do that before. Typically, they tell you not to touch them unless you're petting them and they give you the instruction to do so. But this time I was able to grab the tail, walk with the tail. I had me a time, y'all. So after I did my elephant back safari and then my lion walk, then that was kind of the end of my day in Zimbabwe. And then I was taken back to go and meet up with my main tour guide to go back to Zambia, and my day was complete. The third day in Zambia, I actually went to the Chobe National Park. I'm gonna do another video about Chobe because I don't want to make this video too super long, but I will end this video by saying I had such an amazing time in the Zambia and Zimbabwe countries. The people were incredible. There's so much nature. Like, I love just being there, and I do need to go back in there summertime, child, because that winter was knocking me down. Okay, I'm literally just now getting over being sick, and I've been back in my home country for just a little under 2 weeks. I've been back, so I need to go back in the summertime. But I loved all of the animals. I loved how welcoming and incredibly kind the people were to me, and I definitely would visit Zambia and Zimbabwe again. So that concludes my Victoria Falls portion. Look out for my next videos about the Chobe National Park as well as Zanzibar. I'm gonna make separate videos for those. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the content here, please make sure that you like and follow me, subscribe to my channel. I would love to have you as a part of the family, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.